So Jojos Bizarre Adventure Steel Ball Run anime is finally out, and I can't believe this is real, guys, because I remember when I first caught up to Jojo's anime and was very hyped about the release of part 5 back in the day, and it is surreal to witness this again with part 7. But unlike teenage Wave Lion, who was experiencing the peak anime Jojo's Part 5 weekly and seeing the popularity of Jojo's increasing week to week with crazy moments such as the torture dance, Doppio vs Metallica, and many more, the situation with Part 7 seemed to be a little different. We got the first episode, which was amazing, by the way. I loved everything about it save for some things here and there such as the censorship and some cutting of content, but overall it was a phenomenal episode. But where the hell is episode 2? Now, a lot of JoJo's fans are worried with the release schedule Netflix is implementing. It has been announced by Netflix that episode 2 and beyond will start airing in full anime 2026, and that it'll be weekly and it'll release in stages. And there is a bit of a worry amongst me and some JoJo's fans, and I think that worry is justified because we all know what happened with part 6. Part 6 released in batches, with the first half of the story coming out and the second half of the story coming out months later. What this basically did was diminish the hype that would have built up with people talking and speculating about the episodes coming out. That was one of the big reasons past JoJo's anime parts were way more talked about and way more popular than part 6. They were in the general zeitgeist, and that just increases awareness and attracts people to watch it. But sadly, that didn't happen with part 6, and it suffered compared to previous JoJo's parts. And now with part 7, Steel Ball Run, we have one of, if not the best part of JoJo's, and due to this fact, fans want Netflix to do it justice. By that we mean to obviously adapt the source material properly, but also avoid the blunder of part 6 and release part 7 weekly. And it seems that is going to happen, but not in your traditional way, and it's going to happen in stages. I know there are some of you out there who enjoy binge releases because you get to watch your show without any delay in one go, but the truth of the matter is that week to week releases are the best way for a TV show to gain the maximum amount of popularity. I know we have some examples of shows that have released in batches and are still a massive hit, but those are rare exceptions. And when it comes to JoJo's, we have the data and facts right in front of us stating week to week releases are better for it to garner more popularity and momentum. And you might ask, Wave Lion, why would you care the way Steel Ball Run is released as long as it inevitably gets released and you get to consume it anyways? And my answer is because I want as many people to experience the peak that JoJo's Steel Ball Run is. There is nothing more tragic than a really good anime or TV show ignored by the people. One sad example of this is the anime Pluto. Pluto is one of the most gorgeously animated and beautiful stories I've experienced in anime, but guess what? Netflix released that anime in batches and barely anyone knows it exists. When you release shows in batches, it doesn't have that week to week discussion and theory crafting that drives conversation for months, and it is very detrimental to shows. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom when it comes to JoJo's Steel Ball Run because of one main reason. In the trailer that Netflix released for the upcoming episodes after episode 1, there was text popping out in the trailer telling us the second stage will be coming out, and what I understood from this is Netflix is going to be releasing the Steel Ball Run episodes in the same way that characters are beginning and finishing the races in the actual story. So the second stage, Race of JoJo's Steel Ball Run, consists of 12 chapters, so I believed Netflix will release the adaptation of those episodes in batches whenever they release it. But turns out the reality was actually better, and Netflix plans to release the second stage weekly instead of in batches, and in their announcement they said it aligned with their original plans, but I'm not buying it. If it were not for the massive backlash Netflix got from us JoJo's fans, we would have never got them to release the stages weekly. And the thing is, Netflix already messed up in the way they are handling Steel Ball Run, because releasing the first episode and disappearing for months is still messed up. The rumors that the second stage will be releasing in October became true, and it seems like they had to turn the decision to release the stages from batches to weekly because of the fan backlash. It just makes you ask, why is Netflix going through all this fancy way of releasing their episodes and not doing it through the tried and tested method that actually works, which is releasing your shows weekly for it to gain the maximum amount of popularity that it could get, which also results in Netflix making the maximum amount of money that it could potentially gain from Jojo's Part 7. Because doesn't Netflix love money? Why are they putting themselves through this weird release schedules? Because you see this with other popular shows as well. For example, Netflix released one of its popular shows, Wednesday Season 2, in split parts. Why did they release Wednesday Season 2 in split parts while they released the whole episodes for Season 1 in batches all at once? Well, the reason is to retain the audience for their subscriptions. They released Wednesday's 4 episodes and they waited months later to release the remaining 4 episodes. And this not only hurts the hype but the storytelling as well. And what boggles me the most about this situation is Netflix clearly did this because they want to retain their subscribers. Because they know if they release every episode all at once, people will just binge the entire episodes and then unsubscribe. So if Netflix doesn't want this, then isn't weekly releases of single episodes the best approach? But Netflix doesn't do that, even though it's the best scenario for them, and it lets them retain their audience's subscription without harming the hype and storytelling. And I believe the main reason for why they just don't abandon their weird stage releases and not just release them weekly like how the previous Jojo's parts before part 6 is because there is someone in the Netflix higher ups who has a rigid and dogmatic adherence to batch releases. Because that's how Netflix made their bread back in the early days. It was binge watching and batch releases that made Netflix different and have its own unique identity. But these days it doesn't work like that anymore, because for one, Netflix isn't the only streaming service around and weekly releases are just the superior way of releasing shows if you want the show to gain the maximum amount of popularity. And Netflix realizes this, but they are too prideful to abandon their batch releasing method fully. It's like the saying, science advances one death at a time, because a scientist comes up with a theory and he is really dedicated to it and nobody else wants to contradict him because he's got a big name, and until he dies then all the other scientists come together and prove him wrong. So in Netflix's case, there is probably a higher up or higher ups who are dedicated to batch releases, but deep inside they realize it's a failed method, but instead of letting their egos aside and releasing their shows weekly, they instead release a 1 episode and disappear for a whole 6 months and release a second stage, which luckily will air weekly, and then will disappear for God knows how long to release the third core or the third stage. It is still not the ideal method, but at least we get the course or stages weekly. But I can't help but feel that damage is already done, because us Jojo's fans will watch Steel Ball Run no matter how it's released, whether it is in batches like how part 6 was, or huge massive gaps between cores like how Steel Ball Run is shaping up to be, unless Netflix reveals the releases between stage 2 and stage 3 won't be as massive as stage 1 and 2. But what about the normies? Will the normies still be hyped about Johnny's internal struggle and all the other things revolving around it after 6 months? I don't know, but best believe they would have been hyped about it if episode 2 came out just the week after episode 1 released. So not the ideal release method, but at least we will get the course for the stages weekly. And I really hope after core 2 or stage 2 finishes releasing, we won't have to wait another 6 months for course 3 or stage 3, because if that were the case, it would be really depressing. And I am not a fan of the anime streaming sites these days, whether it be Crunchyroll, Netflix or Amazon, especially with Amazon and Crunchyroll dabbling with AI dubs and AI subtitles respectively, but at least Crunchyroll knows how to release anime. Jojo's Part 5 was so much fun watching it weekly, and the memes that was created off of it and the discussion around it while it was releasing for all those months. We won't be having that with Steel Ball Run, sadly, which is regarded as one of the best Jojo's parts and one of the best stories and manga period. but at least it's not a part 6 where we are going to have the course releasing in batches. And I really hope Steel Ball Run has a generational run as JoJo's Part 5 did, and it is not all doom and gloom, because if Netflix releases the course in stages as they have stated, then some of the stages are really long, so we would have JoJo's Steel Ball Run releasing weekly for months, and I hope that would ignite the same level of hype Part 5 had, or even surpass it. If you've made it this far into the video, please don't forget to leave a like and also hit that subscribe button, and with that said, see you guys in the next one.